AITA for refusing my kids and eye contact with my father? I am not op. Original post by you, Hot Mess Mama Express in our 2 hot takes. AITA for refusing my kids and eye contact with my father? Concluded as per oop. Trigger warnings. Violence. Manipulation. Less than. Original post, September 5th, 2023. I, 29F, and husband, 32. Just welcomed our 4th and last son 2 months ago. My husband and I decided we'd throw a baby shower as this was going to be our last child. And we only had 1 baby shower for our oldest soon. My mother and I had always been close. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings growing up. My father was an over-the-road truck driver. So I helped raise my younger siblings. My parents only live 5 minutes up the road for my husband and I. My mother helps out quite a bit with my boys since she is so close and my in-laws live in a different state. As the baby shower day was approaching, my mother helped set up everything at my home, decorations, etc., while I prepped food, desserts and drinks. My husband was doing all the cooking. The night before the shower, my mother spent the night as we were up late putting up decorations. Now, at my shower, I was trying to host as well as help get the prepped food out to my husband, who was outside grilling. My father showed up to the shower drunk. Mind you, he has always been a drinker. He got into arguments with my mother, my best friend, and her husband. He finally left later that evening with my aunt as he didn't drive. My mother had pulled a muscle in her back and just decided to stay another night at my house. The next morning was Father's Day. My father just showed up without calling until he was already in my driveway, which we've asked them not to do as we have a dog that doesn't like a lot people. He is good with my husband, kids and me as well as my in-laws. He was still drunk wearing the same clothes he was wearing at the shower. He got mad that my mother was in pain and couldn't move. Blamed everything on me, saying it was because she helped decorate my home. That night, it went so bad that my sister, 22, who still lived at home, packed some of her belongings and her dog to come to my house. She's been staying with us since. She even made arrangements to move out of state in a couple of weeks. Over the next week, my father was drunk and did nothing but harass my mother, my husband, my sister, and I because my mother refused to go home because of how he was acting. He would say awful things to me, to my husband. 1 minute, he would say that he liked my husband, and then he'd say that my husband was a boss. I was awful, that my husband deserved better than me, he should leave me while he had the chance, that I trapped my husband. My husband and I have been together almost 8 years, married for 1 and have 4 children together. There was no trapping at all. It would go on all day from 7 a.m. 4 a.m. the next day for the whole week. It got so bad that my mother told me to take her car into town to do something for my sister and then run to the gas station. As I was pulling into a parking spot at the gas station, my father's new truck pulled up next to me. I immediately locked the door because I didn't know how this interaction would go. He couldn't see that it was me right away because of the tinted windows. Once he realized it was me, he started yelling at me, saying that I was the cause of his divorce. No one was talking about divorce but him. That he was going to call the cops on me for stealing his car, so on and so forth. He even tried to open the door and get me out of the car. I was 2 days away from giving birth. He eventually left. I called my husband and told him what happened. He told me to call the police and make a report. So I did. 2 days later, my husband and I are getting ready to go to the hospital to have our son. My father messaged me to say good luck, and he loves me. Prior to us going into the hospital, my husband and I decided that the first day we weren't going to have any visitors, so we could enjoy that first day with our last baby. Hours after my C-section, my husband starts to get messages from my father saying that he was coming to the hospital. I immediately had my husband tell the nurses that we weren't having visitors. This made my father mad as he sent us voice emails and text about how we can't keep our son from him. And he was going to sue us for grandparents' rights, which is not a thing in the state of Florida. While I'm in the hospital after having our son, I got awful scary messages about how he was doing drugs. And he won the Powerball. He even went as far as offering to buy my older 2 sons and then said he was going to clone them. He never really cared for my other son, he only cared about my oldest. As the day went on, I'm still in the hospital getting newborn photos done for my son, and I'm getting messages and calls from a lot of family and family friends asking what was going on as I told them I was in the hospital after having my son. That afternoon resulted in my father being arrested and being put on a 72 psych hole. Every day leading up to this, my mother said that she was going to finally leave him, etc. When the police told him, he told my mother that if she wanted to leave, now was her chance, that she had 72 hours, but she decided to stay. So needless to say, my sister and I weren't very happy by her decision. But that's her issue. She said that nothing would change our relationship. But since then, she has only seen our son a handful of times and is now 2.5 months old. Every time we do talk, she talks about my father being in AA, seeing a therapist, going to church, and being sober. Honestly, I don't care. He has done too much damage. This isn't the first he has gotten out of control, but this time was the worst. My oldest is turning 6 this week. She texted me on Sunday asking if she and my father could take my son out after church so they could get him a birthday gift that he would like. My husband and I both agreed that wasn't going to happen. I just told her no. Then she got angry with me, saying that she never kept my siblings and I from my grandparents. They never really got along with each other. That I was using my children as a pawn, that she doesn't deserve what I was dishing out, and that she would cut contact with me. I don't want to lose my mother, but she just expects me to forgive and forget everything my father did over that week. He took last experiences from me that I'll never get back. How do I just move past that? This always isn't the first time I cut contact with them. Last March 2022, thing got heated so badly to the point that I got married without them. Eventually, we always work it out, but this time just feels different. The things that were said and done by my father went just too far. So, AITA? Relevant comments. Zena Sebastian. NTA. It's your mom's choice to stay with your alcoholic dad. It's your choice to keep your children away from him. Your parents sound very toxic. I would go LC for now. Your father's behavior is unexcusable. Your mom may forgive him, but you and DH are under no obligation to do the same. I can't believe they weren't at your wedding. WTF? Your family, DH and children, deserve better. Best of luck. Oop. I told her that it was her choice not to be around my boys. Her response was that she's never been able to make her own decisions. Which is BS. They weren't at my wedding because my mother went against my wishes about bringing my children around my brother, 27, who has done nothing but lie, steal, and cause trouble for our family since his teen years. I found out that she brought my oldest around him. She lied about it, which upset me even more. Of course, that time when I said we were going no contact for a while, my father harassed us for weeks and finally said I was no longer his daughter. So we decided to go to and get married. That's why they weren't there. But in-laws were, and they took us out to dinner that night with my best friend, her husband, and their daughter. To this day, my parents don't know that they were there. It would kill my mother to know that. They didn't find out we were married until a couple of weeks later when we reconciled. Oop is voted NTA. Update January 8, 2024. 4 months later. Since my last post, my sister has moved out of the state and is doing well for herself. I couldn't be more proud of her. I wish I could say things have gotten better with our mother. But it has not. At the time that sister decided to move, not many people knew she was actually moving out of state. Once my mother found out it was my fault. You probably ask how it's my fault. But that's just how things went in my life growing up. All of the family's problems were put on me. I've just become used to it. We went through my son turning 6 and Thanksgiving without a word from our mother. She would talk to me occasionally when it was convenient for her. After Thanksgiving is where things took another turn. Our brother, 18, who still lives at home, told my sister that my parents were talking about moving to Virginia, which is where my sister lives now. I know what you're probably thinking, it's a big state. Yes, that's correct. During our childhood, our parents talked about if they moved out of Florida, they would want to go to Virginia in the areas surrounding Virginia Tech, which is where my sister is. Being the oldest, my sister called me asking if it was true. She asked me if I would find out. I went to talk to my mother, and she proceeded to tell me my brother was only hearing parts of the conversation, which I figured. The conversation took a 180 degrees from there as to how entitled my sister was. After that, it went into how she deserves to have her family back together and how we've broken our father because we don't want to speak to him. How I'm keeping my boys away from them is killing the two of them because it's the only leverage I have. I have never once told her that she could come to my house to see them. She just chooses not to come because of my father. She went on to say that she feels like she's having supervised visitation, which in return I asked her where she would like me to go since it was my home. She has always been great at playing the victim, pity party, and blaming others for her actions. My son, 6, even went as far as inviting her to his t-ball practice. She didn't show because I didn't want my father around my kids. I never realized how good she was until I got much older. Eventually, I was able to see everything once I took a step back and was raising my own family. During 2017, we welcomed our son, who has a serious heart condition. Going through that time, I suffered severely with postpartum depression as well as having issues with Mill and finding out we were expecting baby number 2. It was a lot. My mother said if we moved back to Florida, she'd help with the kids since I helped raise my siblings. Little did I know at the time it would come with strings attached. After moving out of my Mill home, we've have a great relationship. When I stopped asking for help from my mother unless I had no other options, it turned into me keeping my boys from her. Her manipulation. That continued until now. She says now that I have to live with the decision to keep my boys from them and that eventually my boys will come to resent our parenting decisions. A month after we moved back to Florida in 2018, things went south with my father, and he was arrested. We eventually recovered. It was at this time that my husband and I decided that we would move back up north once we handled a few big financial commitments. My parents weren't happy about the situation. Finally, my sister stopped drinking the Kool-Aid and saw things for how they truly were. As it sits now, my mother didn't wish my sons, 6 in September and 2 in December, a happy birthday. No happy Thanksgiving or Merry Christmas to my sister and I. In her eyes, we have become cruel and more vindictive as we've gotten older. Which isn't that case, we are just done playing the childish games that she loves to play. Thankfully, I have great in-laws. Through the family issues my sister and I have dealt with in the past 6 months, my in-laws have accepted my sister more than before, which would kill my mother even more to know. She always had an issue with my in-laws. She felt that my Mill was trying to replace her. Not the case. I think she is always jealous of the relationship I have with my in-laws because she didn't have a great one with hers. It always turned into a competition between my parents and in-law. which my parents created themselves. My in-laws are two-income households when my parents are one. My parents always felt that my laws thought they were better than my parents, again not the case. My in-laws have the financial means to spoil my boys a little bit more. Whether it be my them clothes throughout the year, toys or activities that my mill can do with them, while she visits or joining us on outings, theme parks or zoos in Florida. My in-laws don't like the way they've seen me be treated by my parents in the last 8 years and don't understand how a mother and father can treat and say cruel thing to their child. I'm trying to break the generational trauma cycle, which also bugs my parents. They see it as they did a horrible parenting job. No, completely wrong. And I think I'm better parent than them, again turning into a competition. It turns out that family isn't always blood. In some cases, family is the one you create. It's my sister and I against the world. Now we only have each other. The others we consider family, and the families we've created. This past holiday was hard for me since it's the first one I've had without my parents and siblings. In some regard, I guess it's better to do this now while my boys are young, so they don't have to deal with it as much as I had to. Thank you for everyone's advice. It's been tough cutting out my mother since for the longest time. She was my best friend until I met my husband. It was time to cut the toxicity out of my life. 29 years was too long to be in that situation. Now comes the healing process. Thank you all again. Hopefully, there will be no more updates. Relevant comments. Kiki V612. Your mom is an enabler. But that doesn't mean you and your sisters have to be. She's using guilt and manipulation to keep you guys under her thumb. She can do that, but look where it's gotten her. All of her children want nothing to do with her. It's not because of her though. It's because she won't accept that your dad needs help. His drinking is what's driving your family apart, and the reason it's affecting her is because she's accepting his behavior. I would try to get all of your siblings together as a group to tell mom that you guys aren't trying to cut her out, but that you will no longer have a relationship with your dad until he gets sober and stays sober. And you can see, through his actions, that he's willing to get himself sober. You'll allow her into your life. But without your dad, kids will not be going to her home and your father will not be welcome at yours. But she can see them at your home. Tell her you're not using your kids, but that you also will not subject them to your dad when he's drinking because it's not safe for them. I'd also encourage her to seek counseling. She can join Al-Anon to get support for what she goes through with your dad. I'd tell her this isn't the first time you've had to cut them off, but it will be the last. She needs to understand that enabling your dad is only going to prevent him from hitting rock bottom. If she loves him and wants him to get help, she will stop helping him. Oop, I totally agree, but it's not that simple. According to my mother, he's been sober since he was released from his 72 psych hold. There are 4 of us. I'm the oldest, my sister is third in line, and then the 2 boys. My brother, who's 27, has nothing to do with our family because he has done nothing but cause trouble. I've already explained to her that I don't want to cut her out of my life or my kids' lives. She made the choice to wall away because I didn't want to have a relationship with my father. Zena Sebastian. I think your mom sounds narcissistic. She's always the victim and everything is always someone else's. Your fault? Have you had any therapy? It sounds like you're doing a good job, but seeing a therapist may help you totally cut the cord. I think moving back to where you lived before would also help. I am so sorry that your parents are this awful. I am glad your sister got away. It's your turn. Good luck. Oop. She's completely a manipulative, narcissistic, gaslighting person. The best I know. No therapy, which I probably should have. But I'm thankful for my husband and my in-laws. I honestly don't think I'd be able to get through this without them. That's the plan, to move up north. My in-laws want to leave Connecticut since they are close to the retiring AHE. They'll move where we move, and we'll live on our own compound. It was easier for my sister to get out. She has no ties to Florida. No kids. No boyfriend at the time. And she was hired at a job before she even left the state of Florida. Thank you. Reminder, I am not the original poster. He finally left later that evening with my aunt as he didn't drive. I guess that's a silver lining? I stopped reading halfway through. I feel like every paragraph is its own incident. And this goes on for years and years. Yet Oop thought that the baby shower was the worst part of all this. I've seen a lot of posts on AITA where people clearly are not the asshole but have trouble seeing it because of guilt or some other reason, and need someone else to tell them so. But the AITA here is stretching it. Also, it was posted in our 2 hot takes. How could she be voted NTA?
This post is like Florida woman ChatGPT.
So baby shower on Sat, Father's Day on Sun, and C-section on Monday. I, 29F, and husband, 32, just welcomed our 4th and last son 2 months ago. My husband and I decided this is either an AI or one of the common contributors. This is a very particular pattern I've seen where they'll use I and my husband, and then pivot to my husband and I immediately after. So she realized that her mother was not the victim she pretended to be at the hands of an abusing husband. She is an abuser. Decided to have many kids while parentifying her eldest. And gaslighting, guilt-tripping, emotionally abuse her kids. The mother is not an enabler. She is an abuser. I'd say even worse than the father. 'Cause the father is obvious. So it doesn't make her question her sanity. My eyes feel weird after reading this post. I know that this was OOP's normal, but good gravy was it tiring to read how she allowed her parents to stink up her and her family's life. I don't know why, but I'm fixated on him wanting to clone the sons. It's far from the worst part of this. It's just wild. Clones. This post is horrible. Super confusing and poorly written. I wish we would all agree to stop using the word narcissist all the time about all bad behavior. I'm glad she woke up to her mom. I was side-eyeing the start where the mom was great but still married to the awful dad. Lo and behold, turns out the mom wasn't good either. Kinda hate what AI had done to reading comprehension because people immediately assume a badly written post is AI generated for having writing mistakes that were previously considered common. Most of the questions people are having about the post were answered. ChatGPT doesn't even write like this, lol. I upvoted and removed it. How many children does she have? How many siblings? How old is everyone here? The number of children, the ages of the people, and their relationships all keep shifting with each paragraph. I suspect this is either a complete fabrication or an AI-generated post. If someone whose life is a complete dumpster fire accuses you of thinking that you're better than them, is it acceptable to agree with their statement? TLDR. How do I get the fire to stop burning me when I put my hand in it? OOP's husband should have moved them back to the in-laws after the first issue. Oop needs therapy to drop the rope. In the state of Florida. And that explains everything. Please, for the love of anything sacred, remember this. Someone being an asshole doesn't make them a narcissist. Stop throwing this left and right. How come she only talks about 2 sons? Despite mentioning she gave birth to her 4th and final son in the first sentence? The making amends portion of the 12 steps seems to be where a lot of narcissistic parents meet their match.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.